On July 27, 2024, the members of our Model Railroad Club were hosting a gathering at the Fostoria Railroad Park to celebrate our president's birthday. I got there at just after 7 a.m., and I was the first one to show up. The intermodal traffic was already running, as eastbound train I-116, having just got a new crew at North Baltimore, comes by. I-116 is normally a gigantic train, and today is no different. This would be the first of 35 trains that I would see while I was here. Not bad. After this train passed, I headed into the park, but what I did not know was Norfolk Southern Train 258 was stopped west of town waiting to go east. I got my camera on just in time. 258 is a Kansas City, Missouri to Rutherford, Pennsylvania double-stack train. Up until recently, he had been running the Chicago line all the way, but they moved him down here to the Nickel Plate and thus the Fostoria district. The westbound train, number 259, was also moved, and we will see that later on in the show. It is unclear if this is going to be these trains' permanent routing. The signal on the B&O side lit up for a movement to turn south onto the C&O main. The train in question turned out to be B410, a loaded coke train off the Indiana Harbor Belt heading for Newport News, Virginia. In a matter of mere minutes, westbound CSX train I-115 approaches us from the east. This is the westbound version of the I-116 seen at the beginning of the video. About 10 minutes later, here came eastbound train I-158. I-158 originated in North Baltimore, which is only 14 miles to the west of here. He is destined for Baltimore, Maryland, carrying containers and auto racks. At this point, we heard NS Train 28N approaching from the west. As you probably know by now, 28N is a UPS train out of Chicago heading for Charlotte, North Carolina. Thinking he was gonna blast through town without problems, we jumped ship and head over to the C&O and nickel plate diamond for the catch. But what we did not know is the CSX dispatcher was gonna run an empty coal train in front of 28N. We got over to the diamond, and just in time. This train called out as E885. A symbol that I have not heard before. From what I gathered, it is an empty coal train out of the Toledo docks for Princeton, Indiana, where it will be loaded and returned to the docks. I think this is a relatively new train, as for all the time I've ever railfanned here, I have never heard this symbol before. It turns out that wasn't the only train the dispatcher had to run, as just moments later, he runs I-135 through the junction. I fiddle around with my camera for a bit to try and get a good angle. The dispatcher must have had his work really cut out for him, as there were two northbounds on the C&O, an X634 and an L340, both of which would turn the corner east so we would not see them. Norfolk Southern finally gets their UPS train on the move as the CSX dispatcher in Jacksonville turns him loose. Like mentioned in the last video, CSX controls the interlocking here, and they do not care about 28N's high priority status. The trains keep coming and coming, and I barely have 10 minutes to rest before the next one comes through. The next train through is one of the relatively new Eddystone, Pennsylvania oil trains on CSX, number B120. As you can probably tell, it comes off of the BNSF. Up until very recently, Norfolk Southern had the contract on these trains, but due to some internal business politics, they lost them to the CSX. This is a win for Garrett and Willard Sub Rail fans, as the trains almost exclusively have foreign power.
That's what I was talking about.
Maybe we'll catch you later. Thank you, dude. Out of here.
Two unrebuilt AC 4400 CWs from two different number groups lead this M506 south out of Toledo and around the connection. M506 is basically a shuttle run, running between Wallbridge and Queensgate Yard in Cincinnati. The train used to take the Toledo sub all the way, but now he comes south on the Pemberville sub to Fostoria, goes west on the Willard sub to Deshler, then turns south on the Toledo sub from there. I am unclear why they do this, as this is the same thing they do with M511. Once again, the Willard sub comes alive, and I am too late to get over there, so I have to shoot where I am. The train that passes by is once again one of those relatively new trains. This is train IO-18, coming out of Bedford Park, Illinois, which is essentially Chicago, heading for Baltimore, Maryland. This train is interesting as it does the work of the former trains I-137 and 138, which have now been abolished due to the tunnel construction in Baltimore. Train I-150 is next through Fostoria, having followed IO-18 all the way. As you are probably well aware by now, but in case if you aren't, I-150 originates in North Baltimore, which is only 14 miles to the west of Fostoria. It takes the connection here and runs north towards Detroit, which is a distance of about 100 miles. It is essentially a shuttle run of containers between terminals, and you could technically classify it as a long-distance local. As I-150 was coming across, NS had two westbound trains stacked up to wait. The first of the westbounds is 11E, heading for Roanoke, Indiana with loaded autoracks. About 5 minutes later, westbound train 259 arrives. The 259 is the westbound version of the 258 that we saw earlier. With 259 leaving the scene, I figured I would have enough time to run over to McDonald's real quick and get myself some lunch. When I got back about 10 minutes later, eastbound M368 was already there. By this point, it was around 13:30, and for some reason, train IO10, the red-hot UPS train, had not come through yet. I was perplexed because anywhere between 1200 and 1400 is usually when IO10 passes through Fostoria, and anything out of that time slot is very unusual. I know none of you guys give a damn about this information, but for me, it's rather interesting. We must have been blessed on this day, as about 10 minutes later, Norfolk Southern Train 304 is given permission to enter Blair Yard. These steel cars would be dropped here in Fostoria, and tomorrow they would be taken by train L71 to wherever they're going. I-166 appears on the radio next, so we jump ship back down to the B&O for the catch. Nothing is out of the ordinary with this train, just two CPGEs carrying intermodal containers and auto racks from Montreal. As I-166 was passing, we heard a Norfolk Southern eastbound train requesting permission through the interlocking, so we moved into the park to intercept. But what we did not know is train IO10 was right behind I-166. Setting up on the caboose platform, here came the train we had been waiting for all day, IO10. By this point, it was just past 1600, and IO10 was well out of his time frame from when he passes through Fostoria. I'm not sure why, but I'm pretty sure those UPS shippers had a field day to CSX. The eastbound NS train in question turned out to be 38N, the former 14Q. I have no idea why NS has been resembling their trains lately, but they've been doing it to a lot of them. Another eastbound CSX train makes its arrival known at Fostoria. I never got the train ID for this manifest freight, but I'm making a guess it was M370 heading for Cumberland, Maryland. About 10 to 15 minutes later, an empty coal train arrives at Fostoria. This one would be taking the Southwest connection onto the Columbus sub. This is train E631, coming off the Indiana Harbor Belt and heading for Russell, Kentucky. The parade continues as B-158 passes through with his train of coke empties. Given just how quickly these trains passed through in sequence, I'm guessing that North Baltimore got screwed over again. Not even a minute later, a westbound train called out that he was passing through East Fostoria, and as a result, this is what I got. The train is westbound N369. Cumberland, Maryland to Clearing Yard in Chicago. The engine on the head end is engine 940, which at one point carried a really bad patch job that gave it the name the Crayola unit, so named as the patch job looked like it was drawn by a kindergartner. The engine doesn't carry that patch anymore. It was repainted sometime last year into the CSX website livery, and I think it looks better that way. Not even 5 minutes passed when an eastbound CSX train on the B&O appeared on the radio. I didn't have time to run over there, and as a result, this is what I got.
See those often.
The train is X560, an extra movement of M560, which runs from Cincinnati, Ohio to Selkirk, New York. The 3 Jeeps in the consist are dead in tow, and I assume they're heading to the locomotive shop in Selkirk for maintenance.
Oh, that's cool.
For what? Oh, the chassis box car?
Good chest 64. As much as it was before? Okay. Now you know you're back to normal. I got you. I got you.
Things have finally started to calm down now as the sun is getting lower in the western sky, but the trains are still rolling, and after about 30 to 35 minutes, here comes I-151, the sister to the I-150 we saw earlier, but runs the opposite route.
He has to work the yard.
Now all this time, there has been a Norfolk Southern train sitting in Blair, which is the name of the Norfolk Southern yard here in Fostoria. It is train 303, a Bellevue, Ohio to Elkhart, Indiana move. Having been in this hobby for over 20 years, I've come to learn to expect the unexpected, and you'll see why here in a sec. NS engine number 1069, the Virginian Heritage Unit, is leading the 303 this evening. The engine appears to have been recently washed, making it gleam in the sunlight. This was the highlight of the day, at least for us anyways. As NS-303 was clearing, CSX train L456 on the C&O side had pulled up to wait. With not much train tonight, he quickly accelerates out of town, only having about 30 more miles to go before he reaches Walbridge. CSX train M566 sneaks by us as we are clearing out for the evening. At the time this footage was shot on July 27, 2024, the train still ran from Chicago's Bar Yard to Selkirk, New York, but since then he has been cut back to Willard. It is my guess that in the coming months this train and M565 are due to be abolished.
I know. Just because the sidewalk. Oh, I know. But we're not that way. What time did you get up here today? This morning? Oh, wow.
I'll give you help you come up. In the mornings, that's when usually the rush.
Oh, okay.
That's when everybody starts coming in.
Right.
And that's after the night shift.
Right.
Normally during the night shift all weekend. It's shut.
Right. But we went to the show Van Wert first.
Yeah, but it's like this. I've learned that essentially if you want to do
Moving down to the depot for the remainder of the evening, train I-009 makes its arrival known. Unlike I-010, I-009 is running right on time today. At the time this footage was shot, train I-117 was a Worcester, Massachusetts to Chicago train. It used to be symbol train I-017, but it was downgraded to a normal priority train sometime in 2023. Sometime between July and when this video is posted, this train and its eastbound I-118 were abolished. Light is just about gone for the day, and I would only be able to see a select few trains before I would have to call it a day. The most interesting train of the entire day arrives in the form of train X001. Trains I001 and I002 are the hottest trains on the CSX system, running on an expedited 25-hour schedule. I001 normally runs only on Tuesdays, but for some reason, they called an extra one on this Saturday, and just like the regular I001, this train was on a 25-hour schedule and was expedited across the system to get to Bedford Park. In the last available rays of sunlight to shoot with, CSX train M511 comes around the connection. If you saw my last video, train M511 comes out of Detroit and heads for Queensgate Yard in Cincinnati. This is normally a huge train, and today is no different, running over 15,000 feet. As a result, I only filmed what I could. Before seeing it on the camera would be impossible. After M511, the remainder of us decided to start packing up and getting ready to head for home. But as usual, the train traffic wasn't done yet, and the Norfolk Southern lit up again. The train is 15Q, the sister train to the 38N we saw earlier, just not resymboled yet. After 15Q, there was nothing else in the vicinity, so the remainder of us called it a night. There was a Chicago Fort Wayne and Eastern train coming west toward Upper Sandusky, but I decided not to shoot it as I figured it wasn't worth it. But even after missing that train, my night was not over yet. As I came across the West End Delaware signal on my way home, I noticed that it was lit up for a northbound train, so I changed my plans and ducked into milepost 24 to see what it is. The train turns out to be M63427, Columbus, Ohio to Selkirk, New York manifest freight and trash. As M634 disappears off to the distance, it was now 11:30 at night. I had been out here way longer than I wanted to be, but in the end I guess it was worth it. The next stop is the annual Summer Rail Show in Marion, Ohio, but that's next time. So until then, I'm signing off for the night. And as always, go Buckeyes!